All right, so you just downloaded World of Warcraft. You're on the boat with your very first character. Here's 5 things I recommend you do as a brand spanking new player, or even as a player that's coming back to the game after a long hiatus. The first thing I would work on, it doesn't have to happen like this very moment when you're about to play the game. I want you to enjoy the game and play it and have fun. But in like the first few weeks of playing World of Warcraft, I'd highly recommend, number 1, to find a guild or a community. This game is an MMO. Now you can play completely solo, and even if you do want to play this game solo, I highly recommend finding some sort of community that you can participate in. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to do group content, but I think this game is infinitely better when you have people and friends to share it with. And I think it's also a great medium to find and make new friends as well, especially in 2025 when we're definitely more online than ever. And sometimes online, the online community, Twitter, X, Facebook, and Instagram, things feel kind of hostile. I think this can be a nice change of pace to actually and just enjoy something with other people and get away from the world for a little while. How you do that though actually might not be in game, and that's going to be a common trend in WoW when I'm going to start trying to make some more beginner guides. And unfortunately, there's a lot of resources and ways to interact with this game that isn't really super obvious in game, or is just better off of the actual game itself. So what I'd recommend, I would look for, you can start with a community. If you don't really want to get into a guild inside of the game, you can look into YouTubers or streamers, or search for communities that maybe share the same interests that you do. Like, why are you playing this game? Are you looking to collect? Are you looking to do raids, Mythic Plus, for whatever, whatever it is you're looking to do? There's probably a community out there for you. That can also be a guild, so an actual guild in the game. And there's all kinds of resources for that. I'll link them in the description. I highly recommend just starting out with the Blizzard forums. They're a great place to start. You can either put yourself out there and say that you're a new player looking for a guild and what you're looking for specifically, or if you would rather reach out to someone else, there's probably tons of guilds there that will fit your needs that you can and apply to. It's not something that you have to do day one, but I think it should be in the front of your mind, and one of your highest priorities while you're leveling your first character is finding your group of people, finding your community. That's number 1. If you're looking for a community, I actually have one. I'll post my Discord in the description. If you want to find just a group of people that collect, do a little bit of everything in the game. We have NA and EU communities. Feel free to reach out, and you can catch me when I'm streaming on Twitch. I try to stream every day. Next, okay, actually in the game. So we have the goal, the quest, the quest of finding a guild and a community. In the meantime, while we're actually playing, I highly, highly recommend that every time you get an ability, you keybind it. It automatically is going to do this for you. Right now, WASD, and we can space the jump. We can press right click to look around, left click to look around as well. What I highly recommend is right off the bat, I'm playing a paladin. My first ability is already on my bar. Now, I don't think yours will look this way in terms of the keybind itself, because this is my account. I've had this for a long time. So as a new player account, this might say like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can change those keybinds by going to settings and then going to key bindings. You have your movement keys that you can change. But what you're going to be wanting to look for is action bar. And that's what this is right here. And so you can even see, like, if I hover over the action bar, it will highlight which button. Okay. You can make these whatever you prefer. I use Q, E, R, and then 1, 2, 3 for like the first primary abilities. I actually have a whole key binding video. It's like an hour long. It's titled for healers, and it is kind of tailored for healers, but it would work for anybody. So feel free to look at that. Again, link in the description if you want like an in-depth guide on key binding. But essentially what I want you to focus on is everything you can use on a regular basis, any spell, any item that you use regularly, whatever it is, you need to keybind it. And the reason that's important now is that the habits you build now while you're leveling will stick with you for the long run. And if you build the habit of clicking spells or not keybinding spells, it's going to get harder and harder the more your spell book fills out. Right now I have 1 spell. I have 1 ability. It's Crusader Strike. It's very easy. Just drag that to my bar and start using it. If I wait until the very end and I have 15, 20, 30 spells, it's going to be way more difficult to actually learn and keybind every single one of those. So I highly recommend from the very start, keybind your abilities. It'll feel awkward at first, but it will pay off in the long run. So let's go accept this quest. We'll accept. And she wants us to attack a dummy. It's already keybound for us. Right click puts me in attack mode. If I get close enough, I will start auto attacking, and then I can press my button is Q. It might be 1 for you. Okay. And now I can start attacking the dummy. This brings me on to the next tip, which is don't just keybind specific spells and specific abilities. Keybind similar outcomes or actions in the game. So for example, I am pressing Q for Crusader Strike, which is considered a building spell or ability, meaning that it will build a resource. In this case, it's building Holy Power. Now this is specific to Paladin, but bear with me. This is the button I'm going to spam, meaning I'm going to press this quite a bit, right? This and my E keybind is something I spam a lot. So when you are thinking about, if you're making a mage and it's Frostbolt, and you're going to press Frostbolt a lot, you probably want to put it on a keybind that's very comfy. That might be 1, Q, ER, whatever it is. When you keybind something, keybind the action, not the specific spell. So when inevitably you go from playing a paladin to a mage, it will be very obvious where to put your spam ability. Okay, I always spammed on my paladin with Q. So when I get my Frostbolt as a mage, I'll press Q again. And that can go across the board when we're looking at our spells. And I know I don't have anything here, but let's just look at Hammer of Justice. Stuns the target for 6 seconds. Every stun ability of any class, if a class has a stun, for me, my keybind for that is Shift V every single time. So even if I haven't played a character for a long time, if I log in and I'm facing an enemy and I need to stun it, if I press Shift V, I know that whatever the stun is called, whether it's Hammer of Justice or whatever it is, I will do a stun. And that is going to make things so much easier in the long run when you start to learn new classes, is you're going to see a lot of repeating patterns, a lot of repeating archetypes, if you will. And it can be way easier to then keybind all those and also learn your rotation. If the keys in your brain, like if I press Q, I'm building. And then let's say I want to spend Holy Power. I want to spend the power I've built with Q. Maybe Shift Q is to spend it. So I press Q to build, and then I use the modifier Shift Q to spend. It's just an example, okay? So that's tip number 3, is after you've keybound, start thinking about what does that spell do, and then where is it located on my keyboard so you can start to memorize that. That leads me into tip number 4, which is read your abilities and understand why you use them and how they synergize with other things. So at the very start of the game, you're going to be given spells and you're not going to get access to the spell tree quite yet, the skill tree. What I highly recommend, again, at the very beginning of the game, when things are very, very small, there's not a lot going on. Right now I have 1 spell. Read it, understand what it does, even down to like, okay, it generates 1 Holy Power and Crusader Strike is physical damage. As you start to progress through the game and get more and more spells and start to actually come up with what's called a rotation, which means a sequence of when you should be pressing your spells to optimize damage or whatever it is, you'll start to actually understand what it is that you're doing, versus if you start with a full class already maxed out, let's say you boosted a class to level 80 or something, and you have all these spells, it's going to be so overwhelming to figure out, when do I press this? What does this do? And then you can kind of almost get to the point where you're just pressing buttons because you know you're supposed to press them in that sequence, but you don't actually know why you're supposed to press them. So from the very beginning, and these all kind of flow together, when you get a new ability, keybind it, figure out what it does by reading the text, and then, get what the action is, a builder, spender, whatever, or even a healing spell, interrupt, and then start to memorize, okay, where on my keyboard is that ability? And that's going to help you out in the long run. And I think the way you level in this game it's very gradual. Some say it's too short, some say it's too long, but I think the way they kind of spoon feed you 1 spell at a time, if you do it right, by the time you reach max level, you're going to have a really good understanding of what your class does and how to play it. On top of that, kind of like a step 4A, if you will, I highly recommend when you start going through the campaign, I'm not sure if on a new account, this will automatically be done. But they're going to give you options here to, and this looks like it says require level 10. So there you go. It's not going to be right off the bat. When you get to level 10, I highly recommend enabling what's called assisted highlight. This is actually a new thing that wasn't in the game when I started playing, which I really wish it was. And it's also linked to a single button assist, which I wouldn't recommend. We'll talk about that in a second. So what this does is it highlights the suggested ability to use next. The highlight ability will only suggest visible abilities, meaning if it's down here on your action bar, the game will quite literally highlight that ability to tell you, hey, you probably should press this next. And that's a great way to, when you're learning your rotation and learning your abilities, to have a general understanding of what should I press next. This is something that my wife really struggled with when I got her into World of Warcraft. She was playing a hunter and she had no idea what to press. She was kind of just pressing one button at a time randomly. And this wasn't in the game yet. I wish it was, because I think she would probably still be playing at this point and not so confused and quit. I think this can make things a lot easier. Now, if you want to really simplify things and do the single button assistant, where you quite literally press one button, I think that's fine. If that's the way you want to play, fantastic. If you eventually do want to learn how to interact with buttons independently of each other, like manually, at the very least, if you're going to do single button rotation, make sure you're paying attention to what buttons or what abilities that button is producing when you press it. And that will help you when you eventually keybind those and start to use them yourself. Maybe that will help you actually create a rotation. Now, please keep in mind that these are all just kind of a basic rotation, a basic understanding of someone that's brand new to World of Warcraft. A resource that I think you should get really comfortable using is called wowhead.com. I would recommend maybe not looking at it just yet because it's pretty overwhelming, just like this game is, but that's going to be a very valuable resource going forward. As you get better at the game, get more into the game, get more knowledge, it's going to have so much helpful resources and so many people on there that can help you understand what your class and spec does, and even like what's going on in the world, where treasures are, all that kind of stuff. And that will bring me into my final tip, which is add-ons. Likely, if you have watched a streamer play, watched anything about World of Warcraft, or have talked to anyone about WoW, you've probably heard about add-ons. And I'm going to log over to my character real quick and kind of show you what I'm talking about when I say add-ons. Now, World of Warcraft has a base UI. So what you're kind of seeing here is just the basic UI that Blizzard puts into the game for you to utilize. But over the 20 years that WoW's been around, Blizzard has allowed third parties, players, whatever, to actually make changes to how the game looks, feels. You can change almost everything about the game, except for you can't change how the NPCs look or something. There are limitations there, but you could basically make your game unrecognizable from the base UI. So if you're a new player and then you go to Twitch and watch someone play, it might be very confusing to see what's going on. So I'll give you some examples using my game of what this might look like. Now, I try to use only a limited amount of add-ons as possible, but you can just see right off the bat, my bars look a little bit different. Now, this is actually the base UI. The only thing I've changed is I've hidden the griffins and I've added 3 more bars on top of the main one. You can actually do that yourself through the action bar settings. Check the Keybind video for that. I actually think I have a UI video too that you can check out. We have damage meters. Luckily, those are getting added to the game natively through Blizzard, so that's exciting. This is an add-on called All of the Things. That's a whole nother video. The main one I use is called a rotation helper. Luckily, just like the damage meters, Blizzard's actually going to make their own version of this, so I wouldn't be too concerned with that. But my main tip to get to the point here on number 5 is I highly recommend playing the game completely stock for at least the first, I don't know, even just through your first leveling experience, if not ever, forever. The reason why is I think it's important to add add-ons in. They're literally called add-ons. It's important to add them to help you with something that you can't otherwise do with the base UI. Thing I would worry about with a new player is maybe they go to a streamer, they download the streamer's UI pack, and next thing you know, the game that is already overwhelming and confusing now has all kinds of stuff and settings, and things are huge or small or all over the place, and you don't understand why the game looks different or what they're actually trying to achieve. And honestly, add-ons tend to be pretty hard on PCs. And if you're playing on like a laptop or a Apple computer, or maybe your PC is on like the lower medium end, like mine is not that great, the more add-ons I add, the worse the game runs. So I highly recommend playing the game with the base UI. And when you feel like, okay, I feel like I want a better cooldown manager, meaning I want something where I can see my abilities better and they're not just on these bars. Maybe by the time you're watching this, the cooldown manager in the game will be good enough, or you can download the weak ore for this. Maybe you want to get into collecting and all the things, which is like a collection add-on, might be useful to you. My point is, make sure you start and try to get the best understanding of the game as it is now in its stock form. And then as you see fit, as you find that maybe, there's some things that could be better, or maybe like, even something simple as like the nameplates of friendlies and enemies, stuff like that. If you find that you could, an add-on could improve your experience, I personally think it's better to add it in instead of just add all of them in and then take them away as you feel like, okay, I don't need them or my computer's gonna explode. Okay, so those are my 5 tips. Just to recap, the first thing I would do is try to find a community, try to find a guild, even if you're a solo player. I think this game is just more fun when you're enjoying it with other people. Keybind your abilities, read what they do, and then try to make sure that when you put them on your bars, that you start to kind of memorize or have an understanding of what the button that you're pressing will do to no matter what class you are. And then finally, avoid add-ons for as long as you can until you feel like they can add to your experience, and then start to add them in. I'm hoping to make a video about add-ons, so I'll link that here if it is made. But if you're watching this video on the first couple days it's out, that is a video that is, that's going to be in the works. So I hope that helped. Again, if you have any questions, please leave them down in the comments, or you can catch me where I'm live over at twitch.tv/Acadian, or you can head to my Discord again in the description. Love to answer any questions you have. Have fun in Azeroth, and I'll see you next time.